Bell ringer. Good job, Brian. See, that's right. Brian's on the ball. The honorary bell ringer for June 17th is the Honorable Robert Bell. The Honorable Robert Bell first made headlines in 1960 when, as a 16-year-old, he was arrested in Baltimore with other teenagers participating in a sit-in at a Baltimore restaurant that refused to serve Black patrons in downtown. He was charged and convicted of trespassing and fined $10. He sued. It was a setup to the NAACP. They sued and went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court actually vacated the case because by that point in time, the '64 Civil Rights Act had passed. And so they gave him back his $10. Interestingly, he had some pretty good lawyers. One of his lawyers was named Thurgood Marshall, who of course was the longtime head of the Legal Defense Fund, and another lawyer named Jack Greenberg, who succeeded Thurgood Marshall as head of the Legal Defense Fund for 25 years, I think. But that wasn't the end of his march for justice. He became a lawyer. He got an undergrad from Morgan State in Maryland, then got a law degree from someplace that Rob Julius heard of called Harvard in Boston, Cambridge, Harvard. Yeah, I got a Harvard law degree. He served at every level of the Maryland judicial system, becoming eventually in 1991, he was appointed to their highest court. They call it the Court of Appeals, but it's their version of our Supreme Court. He became Chief Justice in 1996 and retired from that post in 2013 only because you have to retire at the age of 70. And so I thought, this is Juneteenth coming up this weekend, and I thought Justice Bell was a good honorary bell ringer to have in that spirit. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Please join me in reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And now for inspirational message, Marisa. Marie, should we find District Governor-elect Mike for that? Just that was out of. Well, no, he's retired. We don't want to charge him $5. Let's charge him $1.
Okay, now I promise not to ramble, but I know how I feel during these times, so please sit down. No, I'm not going to be real long, but anyway. A lot of people have been asking me about the Ukraine, and as most of you know, I am an immigrant and I am Ukrainian. And as the 4th of July gets closer, I always think of what my father said, and that was that we need to be very grateful to be able to be here in the United States, and to see, I'm going to start crying, and to be in America. The other thing my father said, which is kind of an aside, is he also said you only buy General Motors cars because GM hired him. So therefore, we were successful because of GM. Anyway, right now I feel especially very fortunate as you look at television and you see the war in the Ukraine, and you see, and I have cousins there. I have first cousins there, and I have cousins' families there. Fortunately, my family is from the western side of the Ukraine, which is supposedly the safer part, even though there has been bombing there too. It's a different kind of bombing that they do there. And you know, as you watch television and you see all the reports, you see all the hurt and the death and the destruction and just all the god-awful things that are going on there that are happening because of the Russians. But also what it's done is it's also inspired worldwide. And this is the inspiration of all of the support and help to the Ukraine and to Ukrainian people, which is just phenomenal. And it's very heartwarming to me being Ukrainian. But anyway, you see all those stories, and I thought maybe I would just share a few personal stories with you of what my family is going through and what my family has gone through. My one cousin, I have two cousins that live right in the city of Lviv. My one cousin, who was here a few weeks ago with me, She is a retired pediatrician from Lviv, and she has a daughter in New York. So that's why she's here. She was able last summer to come, and her visa was a 6-year visa. So that's why she was able through that visa to get here a lot more easily. But she has a 1-bedroom apartment in Lviv, and she has a very good friend that she grew up with that's in Kiev. And at the beginning of the war, she called this friend and she said, "You've got to get out of there. It's bad. You've got to get out of Kiev." And this is when things started, they were starting to bomb and trying to take over Kiev. So she talked her friend into coming with her daughter, son-in-law, and 2 kids. And they said, "Where are we going to stay?" And she said, "You stay with me." So there were 6 of them in a 1-bedroom apartment. So you think about that. So then her daughter and I, of course, my cousin Lasha, her daughter and I started getting very worried about her. And we said, "You know what, you come here, you come here." So we finally talked her into it. And so here's how her trip went. Normally from Lviv to Warsaw, she had to go through Warsaw to get a flight to come to New York. And so that normally is a 5-hour bus ride. It took her 28 hours by bus. And it was all women, children, and there were a couple of dogs. And that was it, no men on the bus. And being that, having been a pediatrician, she very much gets into playing with the kids and everything. And there was a young mother sitting behind her with a little boy that she said was about 3 years old. And so she says that little boy, she was playing with him and all, and then everybody got quiet, and all of a sudden he just yelled out a scream. And she started listening to, and the mother was calming him down. And what the mother was saying, this is the part that's very heartbreaking to me to think about this as a 3-year-old. The mother is saying, don't worry, they're not Russians, they're ours. Don't worry, they're not going to come and take you. So he was scared to death that when he saw the soldiers outside his window, that those were Russians and they were going to take him away, just like his father had to stay behind to fight the Russians. What they were actually Ukrainian soldiers, okay, the border guards. And so she calmed him down that way. But can you imagine a 3-year-old and how he's got to live with that? First he leaves his father, and then he sees the soldiers and is scared to death. That's the reality. Now that's not just on television. This is something that my cousin had to see herself. So anyway, so that's one story. Another one is another cousin that's in Lviv. Her daughter-in-law took her daughter, the 12-year-old, to Germany. They got out of there whenever they could, even though they live in Lviv. The granddaughter, who's 12, wants to come home. She calls grandma all the time and said, "I want to come home. I want to come home. I miss my dad. I miss my pets. I miss my friends. I miss school." Now, this is when we think about, that these women had to leave with their kids for safety reasons. It's still traumatic for these kids because it's total opposite of what they're used to. Then another friend, and he's in Lviv, he's an attorney there, and he was heading home from work one day, and he looked up at the sky because he heard noises, and he counted 6 rockets. And what the Russians were bombing in Lviv was outside of Lviv is where the train stations are, and that's how the weapons are going through to the east. That's what they were bombing. But there he stood watching the rockets that could have fallen any time on him. So those are just a few of the kinds of real life stories that are personal to me because it's my family and it's what my family has gone through. But what really gets me is that what's really inspires me is by all the support and the help, as I said, and it's very, very heartwarming from everyone. I can't believe that yellow and blue, not blue and maize, but yellow and blue have become the most popular colors around. Well, one of my best friends, her son is out in Seattle, and he said all of a sudden, everybody's got yellow and blue everywhere. The fundraisers are incredible. If you haven't bought your tickets yet for the Rotary concert, please do. I went this morning and got the tickets. Okay, so please do get tickets for that because all of those fundraisers really help. They really do for the humanitarian things. Because when it comes down to it, there's a little boy who said, "Are people going to forget us?" And that's the fear. Are they going to forget you? So please don't forget the Ukraine. Don't forget Ukrainians. And Slava Ukraini.
As you mentioned, blue and yellow being very popular these days. I noticed on the day that Ukraine was playing Wales for the final spot to the World Cup, I just happened to put on a soccer jersey because I'm watching soccer. We thought we might go to the game in Flint. And I put on a Curacao jersey, which Marie Curaçao's colors are also blue and yellow. And so I realized it was a different patch on the front, but it was still the colors of Ukraine as well. Thank you, everyone in the room. Please enjoy your lunch. Those of you on Zoom, Brian, I'll just mute you in the room and you can just stay in a conversation and talk amongst yourselves. And we will be back together with our lovely speaker, who is our own Dan Craney, in about 10 minutes.
Where's Amy today? Oh.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for the great fellowship at the table, and great to see you all with us. Joe Fike was saying it's a nice day to be golfing, but I appreciate you all delaying your tee times till after Rotary. Want to remind everyone, and I re-mentioned, and I did the same, bought tickets for us and some friends that we're going to invite June 29th on this Wednesday coming up. We'd love to have you all join us. If you are not able to attend, you can still reach out to the box office, buy tickets, and let them know, and they will distribute them to a youth serving organization here in the community. Anne Marie, how are we looking? Good? Things are more people to buy? All right, so buy those tickets, folks, buy those tickets. And like I said, if you can't go, still buy tickets and let them know, and they'll donate them to another organization to get in the hands of those who might not be able to afford them. We're looking forward to a great concert. I want to also, for announcements, I'm not sure if we have any district governor like Mike, I think we don't. Under health and welfare, did see Fred Hines. Good to see you, sir. Good to see Fred. Let's give Fred a round of applause. Almost to review our stock market. You know, Terry was saying for health and welfare, could we update our stock market picks? And historically, my move has always been to pick the market to be down at Rotary because I would win either way. If I got it wrong, the market was up, I won. And if the market was a bear market, at least I would win the Rotary contest. And I think this is the first year I did not do that. And so I've lost twice now. I mean, I'm losing for the contest and yes. I did notice that, yes. He might be, but we will raise that with him at the board meeting on Monday. Under guests to be welcomed, I know that Commissioner Clemens, who left. Okay, that's a good reason to have to leave. I mean, you know, but he has with him Ashley Prue, who is a frequent visitor and soon to be member. But Ashley, I'd like you to introduce the future Rotarian, future interactor, Rotaractor, then Rotarian that you have with you. Well, welcome, Ryan. Well, welcome, Ryan, and you might be the most honest person in the room, so good to have you here with us. For our 50-50, if Fred and I'd like to ask Vicki Schultz. Good to see you, Vicki. If you could come up and pull the tickets for us today. Don't you agree? Although Vicki's not clergy, she's worked around enough clergy to where I trust her to pull the tickets. Yep. 489 for third place. 489. Let's do a verification of that ticket. Can you verify that ticket, Vicky? Vicky, check his ticket. Make sure he does that for you. He did? Okay, all right. $526. All right, Rob Bennett. All right, I believe that. I believe Rob. Whoa! All right. Yeah. Rob Bennett, I hope some of that makes its way into a plate on Saturday or Sunday somewhere. For our speaker introduction, I'd like to call up Lynetta Coney, Chair of our Speakers Committee. I think that's your title officially, right? Chair of Speakers Committee? Okay.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I am going to present one of our own, the lovely Dan Craney. And I now know why I liked him so much, because he attended the Southwestern High School, not the Knights, but the Colts. But nonetheless, Dan grew up as a member of a family construction business and started pinstriping cars and hot rods and motorcycles in his junior high years as a hobby and to gain spending money, aside from mowing lawns and the regular things that young kids do back in the 70s. His first big job after graduation was at Hammoney Brothers Food Market at the sign and print shop, where he painted weekly specials on the windows that posted all of the special highlights. Now, Signs by Craney has grown to be one of the largest sign companies in mid-Michigan, recognized nationally for the unique accomplishments with projects completed in the USA, region and abroad, as far as Venezuela, Portugal, Brazil, Mexico, Germany, France, Russia, and Dubai. Dan is an avid community volunteer, serving on many boards. And of course, he's a part of our Rotarian family. Now, it goes as a special note to say that Dan really cherishes the relationship that he had with the family known as the Horan family. The Horan family was one of his first big multi-location customers, starting with Total Video, Don Donuts, Ramada Inn. He says, and I quote him, their faith in me really helped launch my business and gave me the credibility in the business community to succeed. Now, he has succeeded, and we want to welcome him to, let's say a little, hey, Dan, come on up, tell us about Craney.
Thank you, Lynetta. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate that. And to Lynn and your family, and truly appreciate. Yeah. Well, you know, as you said, I'm a Flint kid. I just grew up in Flint. I don't have a formal education beyond high school, but I learned in the school of hard knocks a lot of how not to do things until we got it right. You know, my company obviously is very visual, so the slideshow, I hope it's visible on Zoom, because you can't hardly drive anywhere in the community that you're not influenced by sign. You know, if you're traveling across the country, you're looking for that billboard. When your gas tank's on E, you're looking for those signs to say, oh, I'm saved, you know. So a lot of people don't really realize how they've signs impact, how we, traverse the landscape. Even, just in local community or wherever it is. So we've had the opportunity to work with small clients who maybe just want to have a vehicle lettered or a little shingle on their building, to huge municipality projects and um, uh, graphics and identification of all types. We work with schools, churches, and colleges, huge industrial manufacturers. We work with General Motors, General Electric. So we've really had the opportunity, and Rotary also opened other doors for me. Roxanne Kane, one of our former members here, Roxanne got McLaren to take a look at us. Here's this little, unknown Flint company building signs for hospitals in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and around the country. We couldn't get our local hospitals to even talk to, we're a Flint company. Who could we be? But on the larger, landscape, we're building beautiful signs for hospitals in other parts of the country. And Roxanne said, would you guys take a look at signs by Craney? Give them an opportunity. And that happened to be just before the big changeover of McLaren with their new logos and all that. And we didn't get all of the work, but once it got started, we ended up with 90% of the work. We were the only sign company that produced the first phase on time, on budget, on everything. And that again, solidified us with McLaren, and we've been their go-to company for the years following now. And we've done hospitals for them, south. We just finished the brand new hospital McLaren built in Lansing. Really nice, all new facility, all the way to Port Huron, up to Petoskey, all over the state. As Lynetta mentioned, we've got signs. We'll go anywhere. Somebody asked me the other day, how far will we go? And she mentioned we have signs in Venezuela, Portugal, Brazil. So Earth is our customer, Earth. And as soon as I get a chance with Elon, maybe Mars. I'm really pushing to get with Elon Musk. So first sign on Mars, I think, should be ours. So we do the casinos. We recently redid the weather ball. Obviously, it has the new name and logo up there, but we also retrofit it with LEDs. We took out the 1955 technology, all the old neon, and really expensive to operate, maintain, which kind of is a double-edged sword. It's all modernized, but that used to be a cash cow for me because we were the only ones that really worked on the weather ball, and we were there every month because there'd be neon out on it because it's so old. So, but now it has LEDs, multicolored, so they can make that weather ball any color of the rainbow. So there's like a few thousand different color choices to make. So, there's, just this isn't my most comfortable spot. I don't know if you guys know that. That's why I'm not usually the inspirational speaker and stuff. But I just think it's really cool that we've been able to operate all over the country. We have a branch in Fort Myers, Florida, which unfortunately is kind of why I'm not as prepared as I should be today, because the Florida market for employees is horrendous. It's bad in Flint, trying to get good qualified people to show up. It's tenfold worse than Florida. Florida is blowing up. The population is growing by like 10,000 people a month in Florida. The people don't go to Florida to work. They go to Florida to play golf or just retire. You know, I've heard it called God's waiting room. You know, it's Florida isn't where people flock who want to work outdoors and build things and stuff. So with the demand of the population growing, it's there's opportunities just unending there. But you just got to have the people. And unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to be flying down there this weekend to figure out an exit plan to put that to bed. And it's so frustrating for me because as an entrepreneur, I see all this opportunity out there and I just can't capitalize on it. I just can't find the people. It's frustrating, but that's probably one of my favorite signs of all time. It's not a very big sign. It's not all that, but it's probably the most photographed thing in Flint is that the Flint arch sign. And it tickles me so much to see that because I see it everywhere. I even have a competitor driving around Flint with the Flint arch on his truck. And I'm like, you're cool. You're advertising my signs on your truck. And I haven't quite figured that one out. You know, I guess they want people to know they're from Flint. I take great pride in Flint. You know, some of my closest people don't talk that fondly about Flint, you know, that are from here. And I constantly find myself in little jousting, you know, sessions because Flint's been great to me. I think we have so much opportunity here, and you know, life in Flint has been good for me and obviously most of us. But there's so many downers on Flint, and I travel all over the country. I recently served as the president of the Sign Association. So I was having meetings all over the country with other sign association presidents and association meetings and things like that. And obviously the first thing, you know, you're from Flint, Michigan. Yeah, yep. Don't drink the water. I'm like, yeah, I'd never heard that one. But you know, I really think, you know, for a kid, you know, like me, I grew up poor. We didn't know we were poor, but I look back, we were poor. And to be able to achieve what I have, I'm truly blessed that, you know, I had, you know, people around me that were encouraging and helpful and inspiring. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. We didn't really think about like that. You were in construction. You were you're a framer. They didn't talk about entrepreneurs back then. It was like you had a trade and you performed your trade and got paid if you were lucky. And so I saw that all around me with you know, our family, plumbers, electricians, and drywallers and framers and all that. So it was just natural for me to you know, go out on my own. I never in my wildest dreams anticipated the success we've had, and I can only, you know, credit that to the being smart enough to pick the right people around me. You know, my employees are phenomenal fabricators and craftsmen, and you know, great customers in this community, and it's allowed us to, you know, grow beyond the community. But I also saw it with General Motors. Everything was up and down. When General Motors up, everybody's busy. When General Motors down, everybody's out of work, you know. And so I kind of figured out early on that I had to kind of grow outside of our typical borders of Flint. And that's enabled me to stay busy when a lot of my competitors aren't. And we've grown to the point we do most of our stuff in-house. Most of the sign companies around town, believe it or not, don't build a lot of signs. They order them from wholesalers outside of the community. And we take a lot of pride in doing stuff and keeping as much of the work as we can right here. And that it's also keeping my guys busy. Being involved with sign associations, I've made a lot of relationships that there's a lot of other sign companies, again, like the ones around Flint, that don't build their own stuff. So we got the opportunity to start building for some other sign companies. So again, when the local market isn't really buying, my guys are still working. And that's a source of pride for me that I'm able to keep, top quality guys. Because growing up in this community, a lot of times guys would work when there was work, and they're laid off for a few months, then they work when there's work. And I haven't had to do that. I've been able to keep my guys pretty steady for a long time. COVID made that a little tough recently, a couple of years ago, shutting everything down, but we're pretty back full steam ahead now. I don't know, I feel like I've been rambling. I apologize. But this, you know what? It's not going to come up. I didn't get it updated in time. We did the new Sloan Museum sign. Really proud of that because we know that's going to be part of our, the Flint for many years to come. Like the Frankenmuth Archway is one I wanted to have on here too. The archway when you're going into Frankenmuth, that's one of our projects. And that was $1 million archway. So, I mean, when you think about, sign shops, there's not another sign shop within, 50 miles of us that would even contemplate a project of that size. And so that kind of says where we are in the market. Your average sign company's 5 or 6 guys, maybe a big sign company's 10 or 12. We employ 40 in Michigan. Before COVID, we were at 48. So we're a lot bigger than your typical, neighborhood sign shop, which puts us like in the top 5% of sign companies in North America. So, and with that reputation, it keeps our estimators and salespeople busy because we're getting calls from all over the country for unique, cool projects. Stadiums and scoreboards and archways and things like that. If you look in the phone book for archways, there's nobody. So we get a lot of our stuff from the internet. People search that kind of stuff on the internet, and we're one of the top picks for that kind of stuff. So kind of helps. Yeah, Joe. I have 2 and well, our salesmen, we get so many leads. We try and send them to guys, so they're not traveling too far out. But all of our guys are local, so we just disperse them as it's been so heavy with work the last 2 years that we're like, who has got a minute to take care of another job? Yeah, that is, we're actually hiring. Anybody think about sales? We're hiring. Yeah. Well, the question is, what do we do with our old signs? If you visit our shop, you'll see a lot of them. There's signs around the inside of our shop. We've got some, really unique, cool stuff. We also are a contributor to the Sign Museum in Cincinnati, Ohio, and which is a 40,000 square foot sign museum with some of the coolest signs you've ever seen. And my goal is one day to see the Dawn Donuts Doughboy in the sign museum. I just got to find one that's still in halfway decent shape that we can restore. And, and we'd replace all the neon right back to the original glory. I think the Frankenmuth Arch kind of covers that whole spectrum. Yeah, we've had bigger dollar projects. We did all the signs around District Detroit for all the Olympia development, which is the Illiches. They wanted all their parking lots to have a digital sign to be able to change prices, because from a baseball game to a Madonna concert, prices can change on the fly, and they're able to do that digitally now. And we first did that with outdoor TVs, and now we're redoing the whole project 5 years later with really high resolution LED signs. So that's also a high volume, high dollar project with a, very demanding, but big name customer. No. Oh, all of them. Yeah, pretty much. We find the closer we get to Detroit, the harder and more time it takes, the more hoops to jump through. And quite honestly, government's not going back to work. So many of these municipalities, everybody's still working from home. So what used to take 2 weeks now might be 2 months. Detroit itself, Detroit proper used to take us a couple months. Now it can be 6 months. Excuse me. So, yeah, what was a tough process prior to COVID has gotten tougher yet. So it's amazing they're not digital, but most of them are. Yeah. Oh, the archway. Yeah. Oh, really? You saw my guys there? Oh, that's great. That's fun. Yeah. Yeah, going and coming, it welcomes you to the Southwest Florida, and then welcomes you to the airport. Opposite, we did those, yeah. Yeah. Um, we've had really good luck with finding local talent and teaching them signs. Lots of people have design and art backgrounds, but signs is a little different, because somebody might do a really great logo design that looks great on a letterhead or on a business card, but just doesn't work for a sign. There's got to be contrast and legibility. And so we go through a lot, training them about fonts and color and contrast. But there's also, there's a lot of things when you start getting bigger. um, there's a lot too that changes when you just type out on your computer, type out a line of copy. You're not thinking about how much space is between the T and the W or the letters like that. But you blow it up to 8 feet tall, and all of that just exponentially gets exaggerated. And so we have to spend a lot of time, teaching our designers about kerning and closing letters. Sometimes a word will read like 2 words if the kerning's off, and you blow it up that big. It really makes a difference. And I'm so in tune to that. I get uncomfortable when I drive down the road and I see a sign that somebody hasn't adjusted the kerning. It's almost a physical thing that makes me ill. That or somebody will put a letter backwards because, on a thick and thin stroke letter, like an A, the thin stroke is on the left, thick stroke's on the right. And I've seen that inverted, and I want to beat them. I just want, not really, but I want to go fix it. It just makes me ill. So it's kind of weird, the ticks you get in your. First sign. Yeah, gosh, that. Good, yeah, it could have been. No, it depends on what you call a sign, because I started lettering trucks, pinstriping hot rods and cars, and it kind of evolved into guys want their name. And then I think the first vehicles I did were for my uncle's construction company. I lettered Crane Construction on the trucks. And then eventually I made a sign for him. And, they were like, you kind of got a little knack here, and then Hamady Brothers. I went to the skill center. Am I running out of time? Okay. I went to the skill center, and I used to get paid to paint signs there, or I got graded to paint signs there. The teacher got paid. But the teacher would get pet projects in the design course at the skill center, and he'd pass them on to me. I'd do the work and say get graded. And right after graduation, Hamady Brothers called the skill center, asked for the design department if they had any sign painters or anybody with that. And they had one. And I showed up at Hamady's, and he took his stack of resumes, threw them in the basket, and handed me a paint kit and said, I need, turkey, 79 cents a pound, and that's where it started. And at that time, Hamady had 54 stores. And so I was hand painting, window posters that filled the windows. And I'd have to do like 400 of them a week. And they'd ship them out the stores. I'd get a new list. And then the buyers would come down and say, hey, we got this special on tasty bread. Need a poster, and 54 of them, ship them to the stores. So, yeah. Yeah, Marie. Oh, we do it all. Anything in like corporate identity or even graduation banners and things like that. We've we're a full service sign company. one of my customers that I used to do when I just did lots of truck lettering, I used to travel around in my Jeep with a paint kit in the back, and I'd stop at a farm and I'd letter and pinstripe the combines or go-karts and whatever else they had. And when I started doing electric signs, one of my customers said, well, we'll be losing you soon. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, every time we get a sign guy, when they grow and start doing electric signs, they don't want to talk to us anymore. I took that to heart, and I'm still lettering their trucks. I'm not personally lettering their trucks, but we're still taking care of those customers. And that, I think it sets us apart from others too. We're not just about the big bucks or anything. I think we do a really good job of taking care of customer and whatever, size they are. Thank you.
So, Dan, a question I have. There's a Snickers commercial that I love where the guy is painting the end zone in Kansas City for the Chiefs, and then he steps back and he's painted the word chefs. And Snickers says, when you want to get away. And so my question is, of all the signs you've done, what was your Snickers moment?
I had just done a new sign for the Genesee County Association for Retarded Citizens. And I got a call that one of their buses was pulling in, and one of the retarded citizens on the bus realized I spelled retarded wrong. It's retarded, not retarded. So, and that was all hand painted days. That was before computers, stuff like that. That was just that's not even socially acceptable wording today.
Rob?
Yeah.
Well, it happened. Yeah, there was plenty of times where things would change midstream and start over. Oh yeah, we've been there. I had a unique employer at that time too. I don't know how many of you remember the Dandies. Alex Dandy owned businesses in Washington and around. He owned a number of companies. So I got to letter golf balls for Danny Thomas as a gift to Danny Thomas. The Watergate limousine service did work for there. That was one of his companies, the Watergate Hotel. He was all affiliated with those. And so I get strange requests for all kinds of weird stuff working there. It was pretty cool. But one of the things that came around all the way back to the Hamity days was I was buying this building out. I was trying to buy this building out on Marketplace where we are now. And the owners of the building were the descendants of Ernie Hamity. And one of them was in like New Zealand, one was in California, and one was in New York. They just couldn't get far enough from each other, I guess. But they were obviously very successful, and it moved away. But they were asking like $1.3 million for the building. And they had recently lowered the price. And I made an offer of like $900,000. And they're like, no way. No. And I'm working through a realtor, Win Cooper, and we're in his office. So he gets him on the phone we're like, this is taking too long because they're so far away and stuff. And he's going, we're pretty stuck at 1.2. We're firm. And Wynn's going, that's just kind of a little far from the mark. And they're like, that's okay. And Wynn's going, okay, well, I said, tell him I used to work at Hammond's. Wynn's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, tell him I used to work at Hammond's. And Wynn said, oh, by the way, Mr. Hamady, Dan Craney used to work at Hammond's. He painted the window posters. And he said, why didn't you start with that? And he said, and previous to that, he said, this number's going to have a 1 in front of it. And Wynn said, so what if it's just 1? And he said, well, now that I know his family, we'll accept his offering. So, yeah, that's huge to me. The Hammonds were very
I was gonna say,
instrumental in our.
I'm gonna step in on that one, Dan. I can't think of a better way at Flint Rotary than to end with a Rotarian talking about how the Hammondy family work together for your business. That's just what it's all about. So,
Yep.
Thank you, Dan. Let's thank Dan again for coming. Those photos are taking me down memory lane. You have the park around the corner from my house on there, Greasy, but also the Wink News sign. My father-in-law lives at Oasis across the street from that. And I recognize I've crossed the bridge seeing that Wink News sign every winter, leaving the condo. So thank you all for all of us from Flint. This was not only a great way to get to know Dan, but a trip down memory lane for all of us seeing all those wonderful signs in our community and around the world. I want to thank Rotarians who I did not write down names. Someone's doing Marie inspirational message. I'm not sure who set up because I was running late, but Paul. Okay, thank you, Paul. I teased Paul, and yours was, I said, hi, my name's Kyle to Paul, and he cracked up. And definitely want to thank Lynetta as well for not only introducing Dan, but all your great work this year. Let's give Lynetta a round of applause for the speakers. Great speakers we've had. One thing that Lynetta said to me was she wanted to highlight more of not only our members, but also our local business stories and people like Dan. We've had David Gaines, just some great stories of hearing about our own people as well. So there's a few people in the room that probably have great stories to tell. And I know President Elizabeth would love to have you tell your story next Rotary year. Please join us next Friday for a presidential farewell and potentially a roast, although there's no material that anyone I've given over the last year that will allow me to be roasted. But please join us. Please join us. And I will say, if you are inviting guests, just so we can make sure that we give the food bank a accurate number, if you could just send me a quick note if you're bringing a guest next week, and we can let them know so they can serve us in an appropriate way. And with that, for the one of the last times, please, as you go out about your day and your week, serve to change lives. And we are adjourned. All right.